I'm Jacob Hall, and this is a study on the book of Revelation, chapter 6. John Phillips, author of Exploring Revelation, said this: "For 2 breathtaking, soul-inspiring chapters, we have been in heaven. The scroll has changed hands, and the right to judge and rule the world has been placed upon Jesus. Now we must come down from the mount and out of the ivory palaces. Down here, on the rebel planet of Earth, the tempo is increasing, passions are rising. Evil men and seducers are waxing worse and worse. Disobedience to parents has grown up into brawling maturity, defying all authority. Men have become inventors of evil things, and their fearful inventions have become Frankenstein monsters, threatening to destroy the globe. The time has come for God to intervene in human affairs, so judgment is given to the Son." In Revelation 4, John was taken up to heaven from earth to view Jesus claiming the scroll. In Revelation 6, John returns to the earth to view the judgments of that scroll, the wrath of Jesus. His wrath is seen in 7 illustrations. Revelation chapters 6, 8, and 9, the Lamb unleashes the 7 seal judgments. Revelation 6:1. John watches the Lamb open the 7 sealed scroll. The time of judgment has come. Revelation 6, 1 through 2. The first seal, the rider on a white horse. One of the living creatures calls for the first horseman to come. The rider holds a bow with no arrows and wears a crown that was given to him, likely a period of a Cold War. Interpretations vary on who the rider is. Some believe it is Jesus. However, an argument can be made that the surrounding context proves this is not the case. Jesus is expected to come down on a white horse in Revelation 19, 11 through 13. But that is not until the end of the tribulation. With this in mind, the rider could be, and most likely is, the Antichrist, and he mimics Christ before he comes, which many interpreters believe it to be so. The Antichrist, the first beast from the sea, is believed to be a world leader identified also in Revelation 13, and he will be worshipped by the world. There are debates on whether he is Jewish or Gentile. Many believe he will be Gentile. Some believe he will be a king of the north, as referenced in Daniel 8, 23 through 25, because they were skilled with a bow. In Daniel 11 and Ezekiel 38, 1 through 9, the king of the north is often believed to be Russian. The rider carries no arrows, so that may mean that he achieved conquest through diplomacy instead of military might. Some believe the Antichrist will come as part of the revived Roman Empire, connecting it to the beast mentioned in Daniel 7:7, and Nebuchadnezzar's dream in Daniel 2, 31 through 44. In Daniel chapter 2, the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, had a dream. He dreamt of a large statue being crushed by a stone. God, through Daniel, showed Nebuchadnezzar the meaning of this dream. The golden head was Babylon. The silver chest and arms was the Medo-Persian Empire. The brass belly and thighs was Greece, and the iron legs was Rome. The iron and clay toes represented the kingdoms that arose after the Roman Empire, and the stone represented the kingdom of God. In Daniel chapter 7, when Daniel served under King Belshazzar of Babylon, he received a vision of 4 beasts. The lion with the eagle's wings was Babylon. The bear with 3 ribs in its mouth was the Medes and Persia. The leopard with 4 wings of a bird and 4 heads was Greece. The beast with the iron teeth was Rome. Both of these visions describe 4 powerful kingdoms, and Daniel lived in the first powerful kingdom, Babylon. But God showed him that 3 more kingdoms more powerful than Babylon were coming. Some interpreters believe that the final beast, Rome, was never completely eliminated and will come back as a revived Roman Empire. Revelation 6, 3-4. The second seal. The rider on a fiery red horse. The second living creature calls for the second horseman to come. The peace brought on by the rider on the white horse was only temporary and false. Only God can promise peace. The rider on the red horse takes away peace from the earth. The color red symbolizes blood, which represents the slaughter of many following a world without peace. The sword symbolizes war, meaning terrible warfare breaks out at this time. This will definitely be a hot war. There are many interpretations of what this war will look like and between who. Most likely, it will be a world war that will be greater than any war before it. Some interpreters believe that the war during this time will include the rise to power of the Antichrist and the defeat of 3 kings noted in Daniel 7, verse 8. Some believe that Gog, who is the ruler of Magog, and Magog, which is a European and Northern Asian territory, which could mean that it's possibly the nation of Russia, will invade Israel, and this is found in Ezekiel chapters 38-39. Some believe the Antichrist and Gog will battle in Israel, while others believe that Gog is the Antichrist. Interpreters debate on whether Ezekiel 38-39 is a symbolic, historical, or an end times interpretation. An end times interpretation believes that this war will be between Gog, who is the king of the north, versus the king of the south. The king of the south leads an Arab and African coalition found in Ezekiel 38, verses 5-6, and Daniel chapter 11. And they will meet in Israel. This Arab-African coalition consists of Persia, which is Iran, Cush, which is Ethiopia and Central Africa, Put, which is Libya and Northern Africa, Gomer, which could be either Germany or an Eastern European nation or nations, and Beth Togarmah, which is Turkey and Asia Minor. An interpretation of Daniel 11 is also debated on whether it is historical or end times. The historical interpretation being the Syrian Wars, the Seleucid versus the Ptolemaic empires. An end time interpretation believes that the king of the south will clash with the king of the north in Israel. Some believe that the conflict in Ezekiel 38-39 and the conflict in Daniel 11 are the same, while others argue that they are different. If they are different conflicts, the conflict in Ezekiel 38-39 would occur early in the tribulation, and the conflict in Daniel 11 would most likely occur mid to late tribulation, possibly the War of Armageddon. Either way, both books, Ezekiel and Daniel, show an invasion of the nation of Israel. Both books were written BC, and both books prophesied Israel would be a nation, which it did in 1948. Revelation 6, 5-6. The third seal, the rider with scales on the black horse. The third living creature calls for the third horseman to come. This believed to be a worldwide famine. The color black symbolizes starvation and death. The scales can symbolize something being weighed, measured, or judged. The scales most often are symbolized as judgment. The living creature announces food and wages. This is symbolized as poverty for a majority of the world population. People will be struggling to survive and will most likely be killing others just to have their needs met. Revelation 6, 7 through 8. The fourth seal, the rider followed by Hades on the pale green horse. The fourth living creature calls for the final horseman to come. The four horsemen are messengers of the devil. However, they are fulfilling God's judgment on unbelievers. The devil will be enjoying the damage and the destruction the horsemen will be causing. How many times has God protected us from what we deserve? How many times have we evaded the consequences for our actions, yet God did not allow the devil to punish us for it? Our sin separates us from God. Without God near us, the devil can take advantage. The devil can only do what God allows him to do. The rider's name is Death. The Greek chloros is like a yellow-green color, suggesting decaying flesh. A quarter of the population will die in this judgment. They will fall by war, starvation, pestilence, or savage animals. The savage beasts may not be just lions and bears, but also rats who carry multiple diseases and devour food supplies, and we cannot forget the fleas and mosquitoes that pass on diseases and cause many casualties as well. Death in Hades, possibly referring to not only physical death, but also spiritual death. Death means separation. Physical death is the separation of body and soul. Spiritual death is the permanent separation of a human soul and God. Revelation 6, 9 through 11. The fifth seal, religious persecution. Souls of those who have been slaughtered. These are most likely those who have been saved after the rapture. They pray for God to avenge them. God gives them white robes and tells them to wait. The white robes symbolizes their purity. Revelation 6, 12 through 17. The sixth seal, global disturbances. There will be the greatest earthquake in history. With earthquakes comes destructive tsunamis and volcanic eruptions. The most destructive earthquake in history occurred in January 1556 in China, and it killed nearly 1 million people. Falling stars may be a meteor shower, or they may be nuclear warfare. Hal Lindsey, author of There's a New World Coming, said this: "Do you know what happens in a nuclear explosion? The atmosphere rolls back on itself. It's this tremendous rush of air back into the vacuum that causes much of the destruction of a nuclear explosion." John's words in this verse are a perfect picture of an all-out nuclear exchange. When this happens, John continues, every mountain and island will be jarred from its present position. The world will be literally shaken apart. Followed by this is possibly one of the greatest prayer meetings in history. However, they pray for death by avalanche instead of facing the wrath of the Lamb. But they refuse to ask the one who can protect them from the wrath of the Lamb himself. Showing that having knowledge of God's existence does not always lead to having faith in him. Paul covers this in Romans 1, that the lost have enough evidence provided to them in nature. However, they still choose not to believe. Jeremiah 17:9 says, "The heart is more deceitful than anything else." When it comes to faith, it will always be a heart issue, not a head issue. They do not believe because they do not want to believe. Billy Graham said this: "People who deny that God exists may give several reasons for their unbelief. For example, they may say they reject God because they can't understand why he doesn't do something about all the evil in the world. Or they may say they're turned off by the hypocrisy of Christians they've known. But the real reason most deny God's existence can be summarized in one word: pride. They want to run their own lives, and they don't want anyone, especially God, to interfere with the way they're living." There are two kinds of pride. There's the sinful pride, which is arrogance and haughtiness, and there is a good pride, which would be delight and satisfaction. The good pride is like a father being proud of his son. God showed this in Luke 3:22. "You are my beloved Son. With you I am well pleased." Then there is this other pride. Pride, conceit, arrogance, and haughtiness. These are words used to describe an individual who loves themselves and made themselves their idol. In Isaiah 14:12 through 15, the devil believed himself better than God, and this led to his downfall. In Genesis 3:5, humanity wanted to be like God, and in doing so, we brought sin and death into the world. Proverbs 16:18 says, "Pride comes before destruction, and an arrogant spirit before a fall." The root of this kind of pride is to believe yourself as greater than or equal to God. We can combat pride by 1, practicing humility, and 2, prayer.